The prayer and pledge tonight will be led by J.P. Butch Pond.
We thank you, Heavenly Father, for the opportunity to come here this evening and do the business of Washington County. We pray that as we, in our conduct, our word and deed this evening, that we would mind you and do as you would have us to, in that way serve the people of Washington County honestly and fairly. We just thank you for it all. In the name of Jesus, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda as printed?
So moved.
Second.
You have a line item transfer request, I think.
Well,
I don't think this one was included.
I think, yeah, it is. I was told it was. Okay, we have an addition on Bobby Hill. Yeah, Bobby Hill's. He has another line item to change. Russell Hill, I said Bobby, sorry. And I guess that needs to be added to the agenda.
I move to amend.
All right, and add that, all right. All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All right, the agenda has been adopted. All right, now we have Bobby Hill.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Jump right into it. 4.1 Treasurer Summary. 1,000 General Fund. You look at the ending balance, $8.5 million. Doesn't look too good when you think about the budget coming up, but we had a $5.1 million intake from property taxes last week. So currently we're sitting at $12.8 million in the general fund. Same thing for the road. It ended at 1.7. It's currently sitting with just a little over $2 million in the fund. Down to the jail. Revenues exceeded expenditures by about $300,000. And they ended the month with $953,000 in the bank. The bottom of the next page, we ended the month countywide with $35.2 million in the bank.
Okay.
4.2, the 1 cent sales tax. Came in better than last month. I think more people are getting, I guess, online with the online sales tax. It was 6.29% increase, a little over $700,000, and for the year we're $175,000 over 2018. Jail tax, same way, came in 6.29, up $57,000 over last year, and for the year that's $237,000 in the plus column. 4.4, the half-cent road tax. It was percentage-wise a little less, 3.72 increase, 145,000 came in for the roads. That's 70,000 total over last year. 4.5, the general fund property tax. Like I said, that November number, if you look across, last year we got 4.2, and this year, just last week, we got 5.1. So the $500,000 increase is doing what it's designed to do. I guess that's all I have. I can answer any questions, or try to.
J.P. Bowman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can you tell us how much of that was this from the internet sales tax?
They won't tell you, the DF&A. It's And you can't call and say, what is Amazon? But I think last month it was total dollar-wise, 100,000, but that was countywide, including cities. That was an increase over 2018. So it's good, but not great.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Hill? If not, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the good news.
You're welcome.
All right, we're ready for our controller's report. Come.
Insurance.
Oh, did I skip one? I sure did. Nelson Driver, sorry.
Good evening. Insurance fund, still healthy, still staying strong at this point in the year. We started out the first of the month with a little over $3 million, $3,067,000. We ended the month with $3,038,000 plus. So right now we're still staying steady. My only caution to that is we're in the last quarter of the year, and we usually see an uptick in claims this time of the year with people trying to get stuff taken care of, so they don't have to start off with a new deductible. So that's where we stand right now. It's healthy. I don't recommend any changes at this point. Everything looks pretty good.
Can you kind of bring us up to date on our bids for insurance?
Well, we're going
Other-
to see a modest increase as far as the TPA services and the excess loss services for the health fund itself. We were looking at the potential of a 35% increase in the excess coverage, but that got pared down substantially with some negotiations with the insurance company that has that contract. It's not going to be anything that's going to have too much of a negative effect on the fund itself. We're going to see an increase probably of about $15,000 to $20,000 maximum. So we're still going to be in good shape.
Are there any questions? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, now we can have our controller's report. Shannon Worthen.
Okay. 6.1 is the unappropriated reserve balance report. Just one ordinance last month that affected the balance was the sheriff's special event salaries. Then overall, in the lower right-hand corner, net general said 3.1 million. Then 6.2, the summary statement of operations, expenses by fund and department. If expenses are linear, then we should be at about 83.3%. And overall for general, over on page 12, we're at 79%. And then for all the different budgets and funds, over on page 17, we're at 78.7%. So overall, we're about where we should be. And that's all I had.
All right, are there any questions? No questions. Thank you. All right, we have some Bobby Hill for some line item transfer request. Bobby, okay. Bobby.
His alias.
Russell.
Yeah, Russell.
Alias, okay. Mr. I'll just say Mr. Hill, and that way
Happens all, there you go. Just two line items. One is, the first one that is on there is the 3004 line item. That's our Amendment 79 fund. That is part of a half-cent sales tax, has zero effect on the county general budget. we were just tidying up things at the end of the year, so I was moving stuff around to cover this and moving that there. Part of it has to do with that big postage bill that we had with the vehicle values. That's what the next line item is, which is 0106. That's our Board of Equalization budget. I'm glad I don't have to come in front of you tonight and ask you for $42,000. I was able to find that in another item there, and that's what this line item is. It's moving $3,594 to cover that extra postage that we had to send out for those those vehicle value adjustments. So I was able to find that there, and so I don't have to ask you for any money, which I'm happy about.
All right. Judith Yanez.
Thank you. You said 3,000?
The Amendment 79 fund, it starts with 3004. That's that line item that's on the agenda for tonight. Oh,
Okay.
yeah, it's in your computer.
Okay, this
That-
one says 35,000, that's why.
That's the Board of Equalization budget, and that's what we're moving over that from over into our postage for the Board of Equalization to pay for the postage that we had.
Thank you.
JP, Sue Madison.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Is the state not offering to help with
Oh,
that
no.
postage at all? Since it was
Absolutely.
their problem? Did they help any of the counties? Because
No.
I'm sure some of the counties suffered a little harder
Oh,
than
yeah, no,
did.
we yelled and screamed and, yep. And
How can it be that they have no responsibility here? They just say they don't?
yeah, they're the dog and we're the tail. So that's kind of how it works with the state.
They don't pay their bills at the jail. They don't pay.
What they would say, right, yes, and we're kind of left holding the bag on that. What they would say is, well, you don't have to use our values. That's up to your discretion. But then they're going to audit us on those values that they give us. If we don't use it, then we fail our audit, and then they withhold $700,000 every year that they give to us. So you kind of have to use what they give you.
Maybe some of our legislators can have a look at that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, JP, Eva Madison.
My question was along the same lines. Wasn't that a vendor error that resulted in that issue?
I've heard two stories. One story was that the data that they received from Price Digest, November and December values that they received were corrupt. It wasn't the right data. I've heard that. Then I've also heard that when they ran the ratio study to determine an average for every make, model, and vehicle that they received, the person running the ratio study didn't run the ratio right. And so they had to go back and redo that. So it's...
So it might be the states or it might be the
It
vendors?
could have been that they received the wrong data, or it could have been that they didn't run the ratio report right.
It would seem like maybe the Association of County, or the assessors group would send some kind of letter to the state and demand some kind of accountability from the vendor, because it seems that if it's a vendor's fault, I'm sure there's some kind of indemnification in the contract. And I would think that the state would be trying to, if it weren't
To
their
recoup,
fault,
yeah.
to try to figure it out.
From what I understood, they spent $20,000 for the data on Price Digest. So,
Well,
I mean,
consequential damages.
that wouldn't even begin to cover all the postage that the states had to spend.
Sounds like they need a good lawyer.
But yeah.
Do we have any other questions? Do I hear a motion to approve these line item transfers? All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion passed. All right, Judge Beaumont cannot be here tonight. She gave kind of a summary on page 19. There was some confusion on the differences in the line item, drug testing and drug kits. That's why we went over our budget in one and not the other. We also have a new computer software for our drug court program this year, so we had to pay the annual fee, which was more than we budgeted for. But she has the line items listed to transfer to cover this expenditure. Are there any questions? If not, do I hear a motion to approve these transfers? All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carried. All right. Planning board's the planning board here tonight. They have a request for line item transfers. That's 9.1. All line item transfers are the purpose of reconciling negative balances. All right. Yes.
I think that when we put the control on line item transfers into the budget controls, the idea was that we would understand, not just get a reconciling negative balances explanation, because that doesn't tell us anything about what the reason is for the move. I mean, if every time we all had a negative balance in our accounts, we just said, hey, we're reconciling balances, I just don't think it's the information we need. Does anybody have any idea what the reasons were for the moves?
Well, I assume they overspent one item and had money in other items, and so therefore they're asking to transfer. And I agree with you, we just have numbers here without, and I did not go back and look at this before. And I guess no one else did either. So, it's money in his budget, so do I hear a motion that we pass these line item transfers?
Move to pass.
All right, okay, I think we better have a show of hands. All those in favor of passing the line item transfers in the planning budget, raise your hand. 5. 1. Raise your hand so I can see you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, all those opposed, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, I'm going to vote to pass the line items. All right. Motion passed. An ordinance recognizing additional revenue of $54,994 in the Law Enforcement Grant Fund and appropriating the amount of $54,994 from the Law Enforcement Grant Fund to the SCAP 218 budget for 219. And this is items 19-1. It should be 10-1. 10-1. All right. Are there any questions on this grant money? All right, I have a motion to pass and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? No. All right. All those in favor, raise your hand. What?
Sorry.
Oh, I don't know if we have public comment. I didn't.
Yeah, public comment, sorry.
On which one? On the,
On any ordinance has to have public comment.
this is, okay, this is an ordinance, all right. Is there any public comment? All right, all those in favor, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All those opposed, raise your hand. 5. Motion passed. Okay, we're now on agenda item 11, an ordinance anticipating revenue totaling $860,840.32 in the Crisis Stabilization Unit, CSU, Grant Fund, and appropriating $860,804.32 from the CSU grant fund to the various budgets for 2019. All right. Any discussion? Public, okay, Eva, JP?
I think, is this what was in the paper? That was just the money that was anticipated from the state for the CSU that's primarily going to Ozark Guidance? Is that right?
I think that's correct.
That's right, yeah,
Okay.
this is what we're anticipating them for 2019 to pay us back.
Okay.
And most of that does go to the operation.
All right. Any other questions? All right. Public comment. Do I have a motion to pass? Okay, I have a motion and a second. All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right, this ordinance passes. An ordinance transferring $16,116.55 from the salaries part-time line item to the food line item in the JDC budget for 2019. JP, Eva Madison.
Sorry, this just reminded me that the court typically buys the Christmas dinner for the folks down at JDC. So I just want to put that out there for all of you to remember, because with Jeannie Mack not being here, I want to make sure we don't forget to take care of those kids. So maybe start bringing money at next quorum court meeting.
Okay. All right. Any discussion? Public, okay, Butch. 2019. Page 24, yeah. All right, do I have a motion? All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Public comment. I thought I asked for public comment before. All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carried. All right, we're ready to start on our last budget items. We have Roger Morris, our coroner, presenting his budget.
I was going to make a motion to put 11 and 12 on a consent agenda. 11 was the CSU money, and 12 was the JDC food. I think those are the only two.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second? All right, to put these two items on the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All right, motion passed. All right. Mr. Morris,
Yes, ma'am.
tell us about your budget.
Basically, I've moved some money around to try to take some money out of the budget, because I knew I was raising some places in our budget, such as our paupers, but really just didn't amount to too much. We got some issues coming down, and they're big issues. I've been talking to Daniel about it. There is a statute that states you can decline to bury your loved one. Okay, and that's what we're running into. And when that happens, county has to do it. Okay. What we're working on now, I think in their policies they have, it really don't have much to do about budget, but it does when it boils down to my paupers fund. If they decline their burial rights, that they at least decline their assets also, so that the county can receive something for doing the cremation or burial. But something's going to have to, it's coming. I see it. I'm seeing it every day. We had an incident here not too long ago, Daniel and I was talking about, where a funeral home actually came down to $300 for a cremation, and told the family they would do it. They would take $25 a month, and they said, "Nah, we'll let the county do it." These are things that's coming. you know, it's just a new world out there today. You know, I see it every day. You know, it's reality. These people today, it's like they're not wanting anything to do with their parents, but they want what they have. It's the saddest thing I've ever seen. You know, I get jumped out for it every day when I tell them I need you to, you know, I told this one lady that you know, why don't you want to take care of your loved one? That's just like that. Why don't you want to take care of your loved one? Her husband calls me up and eats me out for making her cry. And then they wanted her ashes back and all of her assets. And I said, well, when you go home today, I want you to go outside your door, look to your left, look to your right, and I want you to thank those people. He says, why? I said, because that tax money from those people just paid for that. You know? And the reason I bring that up is we're starting to do more and more every year. And a lot of it's not just due to the fact that they're paupers anymore. It's just due to the fact that people don't want to take responsibility. And it's going to be a conflict. It's coming. Daniel and I both were working on possibly maybe amending the law somehow that we can attach something to it. I don't know. We're going to talk to some legislatures to see what we can do. But everything that we've done, or it's, you know, on my pauper part raising money is due to this fact. You know, out of the ones we've done this year, I will say roughly 4 or 5 was because they turned them down. They didn't want nothing to do with them. So that's why that line item's going up. And, you know, you see where I'm asking for another vehicle. The vehicle's actually doing really well for us. I know some of y'all's constituents are in Springdale, some are in Fayetteville. We've saved Springdale this year by our transportation, a little over $10,000 out of their money. We've saved Fayetteville about $15,000. We've saved our county in between $15,000 and $20,000. So you total that up, you know, we're up around $45,000 we've saved taxpayers by going to Little Rock, bringing them back whenever they're being autopsied. Because otherwise, the funeral homes have the right to charge transportation to said sending agency. So that's why our vehicles are important to us. The vehicle we're asking for, we're doing it for a reason. Unfortunately, there's a lot of circumstances out there that you don't want certain things in an open vehicle. Okay, and I'm just being blunt. Okay, I don't know how to be any other way. You know, we're talking bed bugs, we're talking bloodborne pathogens, we're talking cockroaches, and once you get these things in your vehicle, you can't get them out. You do your best, but it's hard. You know, we double bag them, we do everything we can to keep things that way. But by going back to our truck transports with camper shells, and I mean they're very suitable for a decedent. We're able to keep these things out of our offices, because you saw where that one courthouse got them in their office. Cost you tons of money to get them out. All right, and plus when we have spilled over bloodborne pathogens such as blood, mud, whatever, we can get it out of that back of that truck a whole lot easier than we can that carpet. And we do everything with all the intentions of taking care of these loved ones, you know. So basically, I'm just asking for you to approve my budget. I mean, I can get frank, I can get blunt. I don't like to. I've had to ask for more money in my lease line item because of the fact of FOIs. We're getting hit every day on FOIs. They're wanting to know why all these kids are dying. They want to know who does this, who does that. My personal opinion, that death is between you, and your child, your mom, your dad, not the newspaper. Sorry. You know, it's just me.
Okay,
anyway.
Mr. Morris, you basically are asking for a vehicle of $27,000, correct?
Yes.
And your total, so you have a $10,000 increase in different line items in your budget. And so with the vehicle and the $10,000 increase, you're asking for 37,000 more than you did last year.
Correct.
All right, J.P. Ecke, did you have a question?
Yes, ma'am, I did. Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, Mr. Morris. I do have a question regarding the comment on your paupers line item. Do you think this is a local, regional, or state trend that you see?
I haven't searched statewide yet, but I do know between Benton County and us, it's definitely local.
So it's more or less like this Northwest Regional.
Yes, but like I say, I haven't branched out yet, but I will. I can get you that information.
Well, that's good to know, where this is happening. Also, you're talking about legislative action.
Mhm.
If you could find out if this needs to be a constitutional action or an ordinance that this court can pass in order for the county to recoup the costs on the assets, I want to help you any way that I can, but will you please keep us informed on your plan of action once you've developed it?
I'll be glad to, but because when I talked to Daniel the other day, I'm sure, because I was telling him about this amendment that I was wanting to do with maybe one of the representatives, and he said they already have it in their county.
Which county, in Benton County?
In Benton County. So I need to, don't want to say something that's not correct, so I want to
Certainly.
get back with him and get the right
Right.
interpretation to tell you. But they do have something in place, it's like an asset thing, et cetera. And the thing I was going to do about amending was maybe if they have an insurance policy or something like that, let it have to go with the decedent like you would when you do when it goes into the estate and then all the bills are paid and then it goes back to the family then.
Receivership, sure.
All
Would you
right.
please let us know so that way
Yes.
because I would like to recoup our costs
Oh,
and
God,
I
yeah.
understand what's going on.
Because it just irritates me to death, and I know it has my staff when we've had them walk right in and act like they don't have a care in the world and leave it go when they're driving a better car than any of us are driving. And then they come back 3 weeks later and want the remains and act like nothing ever happened.
No, they don't.
Okay.
And right there's a witness.
All right, okay. J.P. Deacons?
Corner Marks, I got questions on line item 2002. Your requested budget for that for 2020 is $5,000. It looks like we've got some updated numbers here, but you year-to-date have spent $405 out of that fund. Can you explain what you're expecting there for that additional $4,500?
When we get this new vehicle and things like that, we have to replace things all the time. Small equipment can be anywhere from our phones to, you just don't ever know when it's going to happen. And our computers, we go through iPads, numerous. Luckily we were able to have some money in that line item.
Okay. And I want to follow up on the pauper conversation. You're saying that there is pending legislative action, or there's already
No.
been legislative action?
There ain't been nothing on it. There is a state law that states that you can decline burial of your loved one. In
Gotcha.
fact, the paupers fund used to be a judge's issue. But when I became coroner, I kind of slid it into mine to make it easier on that legislation level since it's dealing with what I do on a daily basis.
I got you. And how do you come up with the budget number of $4,000? Is that a certain number of burials that you're going to have to cover, or what? I mean, I'm just
Yeah,
asking again
yes.
because we're here.
Right now, I have an amount that I have a couple funeral homes that have crematories, because I went to them all. But basically, the ones who have a retort can give us a better price for the county. Well, right now, that price is keeping us right in that kind of a line item, probably around 3,000 is where we were. But the thing is,
2,300.
they've got to go up.
Okay.
They've got to go up. And when they go up, I can't ask them to keep that price forever, but whether they go up or not, our paupers are going up. It's just going to take 6 more to take that 4,000 I'm asking for and be done.
That'd be 6 more, you're saying?
Yeah,
6 more
basically about
burials
6
or
more.
cremations?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank
So
you.
that'd be
Thank you, Madam
gone.
Chairman.
Okay, J.P. Jenkins?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So what is the cost to take care of one pauper?
I'd rather not disclose that, and the reason being is I
You-
don't want them to,
Okay,
go to
I
set
get it.
funeral homes and say, hey, you're doing it for the county
I
for
get
this
it.
price here. Can't do
Well,
that.
you said that the numbers have gone up. How many have you done this year?
This year, what were we up to this year? 7. But we had 2 done, we had 2 on top of that done for us gratis.
And your previous budget has covered that,
Yes.
correct? Okay, thank you.
I noticed in your budget that you have several items that you really haven't spent on the line items, haven't spent very much out of. But, if those are not spent by the end of the year, that turns back into the general fund.
Exactly.
So, that's where, we're coming up with this $11.6 million. We usually have about 10% money turnover just from unused money in the budgets. All right, you have a JP ENS?
Thank you. Question on other professional services, line item 3009. Average, it looks like it's more than 2,000, and so last year you budgeted 500, but you're over that amount.
On which line item?
3009.
Okay, yeah, we're over that amount because we went to 1 full-time individual, which I need another one, but due to budget restraints, we're gonna deal with that another day. And to meet HR standards, one of our gentlemen who retired last year, or a couple years ago, good man, he comes in and covers when this man has to go on vacation or something like that. So to make that difference up, that's where it hit. And hopefully we can change that later on. But like I say, to meet HR standards and to give this gentleman some time off, it's easy. You can walk outside and get all the part-time help you want for the weekends. Well, until they see what you do. And then come during the week, that work's not there anymore. That's why we went to the full-time individual. Because like I say, it's a hard job.
I just wanted to make sure you didn't under budget it yourself, because it looks like the average of it is above 2,000 from all the years.
What I put in there, I don't have it in front of me.
2,000.
I think we'll be all right.
Okay.
All right, I have a motion to pass. Do I have a second? All right, motion and a second. All those in favor?
Oh, no, sorry.
No. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Thank you, Mr. Morris.
Thank you, ma'am. If y'all have any questions, let me know, come down, meet me, we'll give you a tour, let you help. Be a good day.
We're not.
Thank you all.
All right, we have Angela Wood back, our collector, to pass this budget tonight. We have to pass this budget one way or the other. So, Angela, do you want to say anything about your budget other than what you've already said?
I mean, it is coming out of the automation fund. It's not affecting the general fund in any way.
All right, so okay. Do we have, all right, J.P. Ecke?
My mic, there it goes. Good evening. Would you please restate, the only thing that comes out of our general fund is your personnel, correct? Everything else comes out of your automated
Automation
fund, so that you're not adding anything to the budget, correct?
Correct. I actually moved some personnel over into my automation fund from the general this year too.
She moved 100,000 out of the general.
I moved to pass the collector's
All right.
budget.
All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay. JP Johnson. Sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've got a question, Ms. Wood. I had a constituent email me yesterday and ask me why elected officials were hiring outside counsel when we had a full-time county attorney, and I couldn't answer that. Can you answer that for me?
Well, I would only hire outside counsel if Brian is unable to help me. If he's available, I'm not going to hire somebody.
Are there any other questions? All right, we have a motion on the floor and a second. Do you have a question? No. All those in favor of the collector's budget, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you. All right, now, we need to, for discussion, the quorum court budget. We've increased our budget about $9,000. Well, do I have a motion to pass the quorum court budget? JP, Eva Madison.
I just don't think in these budget times, we should ourselves be dedicating $10,000 to meals and lodging. I can't support the budget with that in it. In fact, I would move to amend 15.1 to take that out.
All right, I have a motion to take out, what line item is that?
3094, meals and lodging, $10,000.
3094. All right. I have an amendment to take $10,000 out of the meals and lodging, and I have a second. Further discussion. All right.
Go ahead.
Okay, JP Deacons.
This has been added, and I want everybody to know this, especially out in the public, for travel and continuing education things that the quorum court does. While I know our budget is very tight, I know that I've benefited from that, and I've very much appreciated having any outside help to help me get in this role and understand more about what I can do for this county. So I will not be supporting the amendment.
All right, okay, JP Johnson.
Yes, I agree with Justice Deakins. We have a state association of counties. I've been to 2 of those events, and we learned a lot at those events. And I think that the JPs ought to have the opportunity to have some help when they go to them.
All right. Okay, JP Eva Madison.
There's also money budgeted for training and education. And I think that every time I've attended one of the state meetings, I've paid my own way. I just think that's part of the cost of doing business when you run for elected office. I think $10,000 is an extravagance when we're telling employees that they may not get raises. If you want to go get learning, go. But I think that it should be something that you pay for yourself. We get paid for coming to our meetings, and I think that's just the cost of holding office. But if somebody needs help with paying for a registration fee, there is money budgeted for training and education. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Okay, JP Jenkins. Okay. JP Pond. Butch Pond, yes, we know.
I'm gonna vote no on this amendment, and, I appreciate that the newer members of the court are able to go and have these opportunities to learn more about their job and able to do a better job. And I probably shouldn't mention this, but I'm going to. If this is going to be an incentive, if we get this passed and then maybe some of them are gonna vote for those raises for the employees to keep us from looking bad, so, cause I'm for them getting raised too. Anyhow, thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? J.P. Jenkins.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Where did the $10,000 amount come from? I mean, where did this number? Was
think
it calculated by some sort of?
Basically, it came from the group that went to D.C. I think that's where that came from.
Well, I understand that.
$2,344
Is that what that is, right?
Yes.
Wait.
Are there any other comments?
Okay, so like, well, one more thing. So they paid total, according to the budget numbers, $2,344.05.
Okay.
This isn't updated.
That's what was paid. Okay, we've got expenditures, 9,900.
Oh, okay. No, this is updated then. I'm looking at an
Okay.
updated version, so.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, JP, Sue Madison.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If we're budgeting $10,000 for this and there are 15 of us, that's over $600 apiece. That seems to me to be very extravagant when most of these educational events probably should happen if the Association of Counties are perhaps in Little Rock. And I don't think their rooms are that expensive in Little Rock.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, JP Duncan.
We just passed a budget to pay $20,000 of special legal when we have a county attorney that's on staff, and we're arguing over 10 grand, and it seemed to get passed, no problem. Here's $20,000 to pay for something we already have some money that we're paying. So for us to argue about $10,000, to me, I'm mind blown that 20 grand just seemed to slide on through, but the $10,000 now is a big point of contention, so.
All right, okay, JP Hires.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's a different fund, and I think we have to look at each thing individually and not say, well, we just did this, so we need to do that. I too went to DC. I know that the money that was budgeted for this helped to pay for me to go to DC. Honestly, I did not find the conference that we attended that worth that kind of money, and so I actually felt guilty about it. I didn't charge the county for my meals, and I ate my own Uber fees instead of charging the county for those. So I'm going to vote for this amendment.
All right, any other comments? All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in... The motion is to remove the $10,000 from meals and lodging. All right. All those in favor of removing the $10,000 from meals and lodging for JP members, raise your hand. All right, all those opposed, raise your hand. All right, it failed. All right, now we're back to...
Motion to pass the quorum court budget as is.
All right, do I have a second? All right, we have a motion to pass a budget. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say no. No. Motion passed. All right, we're to budget summaries. I got these out, I hope early enough that people can look at these budget summaries. We have an update on money available, so the ones that you have may not be correct. In that Bobby Hill, our treasurer, has raised the general fund carryover to $11,600,000. So there's another $100,000 in the budget, and these should be the new budgets. You received 4 proposed budgets. One We're adding all the positions back that were requested. And all the, I did see Judge Zimmerman come in, and I'm not sure about the court clerk, that situation, but we can amend that if we need to, but she's back in the budget. So we have a 2% raise and we have a 3% raise. All right, then we had two budgets where we cut 1/2 of the new positions. And that was with a 2% raise and a 3% raise. Now, one of these has got, okay. So, we're open for discussion. J.P. Johnson.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I think we're getting close. I have a proposal that's in between a couple of these that I'd like us to discuss. And I'm starting with the sheet, page 33 in the handout I got. That sheet has the latest projected carryover numbers. I've confirmed that with Bobby Hill. This is a proposal with a 2% raise that includes all of the added employees. Now, I'm not convinced that all of the added employees is where we ought to start. I'm proposing that we delete from this budget half of the sheriff's 16 employees, so that the prosecutor gets the 2 he wants to add, the public defender gets the 3 he wants to add, the sheriff gets 8 folks, which gives him 2 additional people in the intake area per shift, and then we can evaluate that situation later. And what this does is this gets our unappropriated reserves to about $4.3 million. And I would
Okay.
only add one caveat to this, that any employee that has received a raise in calendar year 2019 greater than 2% not get an additional raise. Thank you.
Okay, we also have 2 positions in the circuit judge, Judge Zimmerman's.
that's correct.
And those are included in this. All right. Okay, J.P. Eva Madison.
Would you mind if I ask
Yeah,
JP Johnson? I just want to clarify from page 33, what is the difference, just that it's only half of the sheriff's new people?
The difference of half the sheriff's people is $500,000.
So it's kind of a hybrid between 33 and 35, because I was looking at 35 and it says half the new employees, but you're saying only half of the sheriff's.
I'm saying only half of the sheriff's
Okay,
employees.
with the 2% option?
Yes.
Okay. With the cap, and that was my next question. Thank you, JP Ecke. With the caveat for the people who got a raise in 19, would that be a raise in the 2019 budget? Because that would be effective January 1. I just want to make sure, I think we need to be really clear on that.
No, my intention, we have given raises every month. My intention is if somebody got a raise since the 2019 budget that exceeded 2%, that they not get an additional raise for 2020.
Well, and then and Madam Chair, additionally, and I think in our budget controls, we usually say that if you have to hit your 1-year anniversary date
Right.
to get it too.
Right.
I don't know if that's part of it or not.
I'm not sure, okay.
That you have to hit your 1-year anniversary date with the county to be able to get a raise, so that you haven't been here a month and get,
But I think
those little details make a difference when they're trying to figure out who gets paid what, so.
I think what he's trying to say is someone that got a raise, we gave raises this year. I mean, so I'm not sure, I mean.
And I'd have to I'd have to go back and look at all the minutes, but I know that the lady that just got hired at JDC got a raise.
Oh, I understand, okay. But
And I may be wrong. All I'm saying,
okay, I understand what you're saying. You're saying anyone that got an additional raise other than what we approved for 2019, that they not be eligible for a raise in 2020. Is
correct.
that, okay,
Correct.
so we're not talking just about raises. Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Okay, JP, Pond.
We had to, we ran late in the evening, the last regular quorum court meeting, and, I've moved to postpone some job description changes and raises. How does that affect those that were postponed at the last quorum court meeting?
That's a complete different issue
Okay,
from this.
all right, fine.
All right, JP Hire.
Thank you. I just have a question, because I wasn't here when this happened. When we passed the ordinance giving the sheriff's office step salaried raises, what was the percentage that we agreed to at that time?
Okay, the step system is back in this budget. It's back in the budget. All of the, everything's back in the budget. Just those, we put back everything that we set aside when we started the budget, we've put back into the budget. All right, further discussion. JP Lemming. Okay, JP Bowman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, I looked at all these budgets and kept thinking about the numbers. You know, I talked to our people here at the courthouse that keeps up with all this thing. 56% of our budget goes for employees. And you know, I think we've got to recognize that somehow we've got to reduce the number of people this county employs. We've got to do more with less. And you know, that's something I was taught when I first came up here in '63. We've got to continue to do more with less. And I've not seen a lot of that going on. I know the road department and the judges people have been reducing the number of people. I think they've cut about 8 people out of their group. I don't know how many other departments are doing that, but we've got to continue to look at that to kind of make this budget come together. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. Other comments? Are we, JP Ebenmatis?
I know we're trying to save money, but a 2% raise is kind of pitiful. It's sort of barely a cost of living adjustment. It's $300,000 more. It looks like less than $300,000 more to pay for a 3% raise. I sure would like to hear some discussion about some other alternatives. I mean, I think
We
that
have a motion on the floor.
well, I'm not going to support it because
Well,
I think there
okay.
needs to be more discussion about the trying to do a little bit more for our employees. I mean, if the sheriff is willing to go along with only half of the new people he needs, then I think surely we could find the money to give our employees a little bit better raise, because 2% is just, it's not much.
Okay, JP Pond.
I'd be more inclined to pass this with a 3% raise myself. That's just
Well,
saying.
then you have to
before-
amend the
before we have
motion.
I move to amend
Second.
the amendment.
All right, we have an amendment and a second to go with the 3% raise with everything else that we've discussed. All right, 3% raise, or is there any, all right, JP Duncan.
So that takes our reserves from 4.3 to roughly 4 million, is that right?
Something like that, 3.9, something like that. All right, any further discussion? JP Pond. Now, this
This is gonna be the vote on the amendment.
That's
All
right. We're voting on the amendment, not the budget. All right. All those okay, is there further discussion? All right.
What is the amendment?
The amendment is to do a 3% raise instead of a 2% raise. All right. This is an amendment. All right. We're voting on the amendment to change 2% to a 3%. All right. All those in favor of the amendment, raise your hand. All right. All those opposed to the amendment, raise your hand. All right. The amendment passes. We're going for a 3% raise. Is that correct? All right. All right. Now we're back to the original motion.
Can I restate that motion?
Yes.
I just want to make sure I restate the motion so everyone understands. The motion is to approve the budgets that are requested, and which would include all the step raises, would include the elected official raises. It would include all the new positions that were requested, with the exception of only 1/2 of the requested positions for the sheriff's office. And it would include a 3% raise for all employees. However, no employee who received a raise, excluding the raises they were given at the beginning of the year from 2018, no employee who received a raise in excess of 3% would be eligible for the 3% raise.
Okay, J.P. Ecke? Oh, Eva Madison, excuse me. I'm sorry.
I want to make sure I understand. This is just on the raise proposal, not the budgets as a whole. And that's what I wasn't confused about when you restated, because we've got final budget approval on number 19. So
Okay,
it's
but
not
these-
to pass all the budgets approved, it's to
But
pass
we
the
have-
raises.
Okay, it's to pass the proposed raises, and because we have to do budget controls before we can pass the final budget.
So what?
J.P. Johnson?
Well, hang on,
Well, we're doing this backwards.
hang on. Did I have the floor?
If we're not passing a budget, let's go find the money that's in the unappropriated reserve, that's in all those other budgets, and then the 2% versus 3% is not an issue.
I don't understand your question.
Madam Chair, do I have the floor?
It wasn't a question, it was a statement.
Statement, all right. All right, we've got a motion on the floor.
But, point of order, we need to know what the motion is. And when
All
our
right,
county
we-
attorney
okay.
repeated it, I did not agree that it was on all the budgets. Because
It
there's
is.
another item on final budget approval for 19.
Well,
The proposal was what the raises were gonna be.
all right. No, the proposed is the whole budget.
Well, then why is it on the item agenda
Well,
the second
because
time?
it has, the budget controls have to be passed, and we probably should have done but we can't do budget controls until we pass a raise, or not pass a raise, or whatever it is. All right. I don't see any conflict here. All right, and I'm gonna proceed. We're voting on the budget with a 3% raise with all positions that were requested included, except the 16 that the sheriff wanted. We've cut that to 8. And I would like to make a comment about that at this time, in that if he really needs additional people, sometime next year that he come back and request that additional people at that time. I think the sheriff realizes that. So, okay, we have a J.P. Jenkins.
I just have a quick question. So in the amendment of the amendment, originally what J.P. Johnson had said was that this would ensure that there would be the monies there to fund additional employees for the prosecuting attorney's office and the public defender's office. And I want to
Yes.
make sure that that
Yes.
is clear.
That is clear.
Okay.
All positions
Okay.
that were requested.
Okay, thank you.
All right. And Judge, yes. All right. We're back to the amended, we have a 3% raise. Now we need to vote on the budget. We have a motion for that. JP Hires.
And so I don't want it to go unanswered. I'm confused that we're on 16, that the final budget approval is on 19. It looks like between that, we're supposed to do budget controls. And so I'm confused why we're moving 19 to 16 when we haven't done the things in between.
Well, because we can't do the final budget until we do the budget controls. The raise in the budget is controlled by budget controls. And that, if and I made that decision to put it in that order because we can't approve budget controls until we approve the raises, because the raises go in the budget controls. All right, yes.
Just trying to get this straight. So we are going to approve the budget, or vote on budget, and then we're going to move on to budget controls and then come back and
We'll
approve
approve
again
all
a
of it.
final time.
Right.
Okay.
All right. All those in favor? Okay, roll call on the budget. Passing of this budget with a 3% raise with all positions put back in, and 8 for the sheriff instead of 16. All right, is everybody clear on that? All right, we're ready.
Lance Johnson. No. Susan Cunningham. No. Harvey Bowman.
Yes.
Judith Yanez.
Yes.
Patrick Deakins.
No.
Lisa Ecke.
No.
Sam Duncan.
No.
Eva Madison.
No.
Andrea Jenkins. I'm sorry. Yes. Suki Hires.
Yes.
Sue Madison.
Yes.
Willie Lemming. Butch Bond.
Yes.
I think I get to vote, even though, do I get to vote?
You can if you want to. It'll affect the outcome. We have 6 yeses, 7 noes. If you vote yes, then it's a tie, which fails.
Doesn't matter. All right. The motion fails. All right, now, what is the pleasure of the court? We have to pass a budget. I need a motion. Yes.
I move we go back to the proposal that Lance presented.
All right. Is that a motion?
Yes.
Okay, a 2% raise instead of a 3. All right. And I have a second. All right. Okay. 2% raise. Any further discussion? All right. Call the roll. Ms. Patty?
Lance Johnson.
Yes.
Susan Cunningham.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman.
Yes.
Judith Yanez.
Yes.
Patrick Deakins.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke.
Yes.
Sam Duncan.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
No.
Andrea Jenkins.
No.
Suki Hires.
No.
Sue Madison.
No.
Willie Lemming.
Yes.
Butch Pond.
Yes.
All right, it's 9-4. Motion passed. All right, now, let's move on to budget. Okay. All right, we've already done 16. All right, we're ready to for budget controls, 17.1. Just a minute. I've done something a little different on these budget controls. I think elected officials, basically, we give them the money, we appropriate the money, and they give us the courtesy of putting that money in line items of how they think they're going to spend it. And so that's, I feel, as a courtesy to the court. When things change, I think they should be able to transfer money from line item to line item. They're elected officials. I feel that this is over control of the quorum court. All right. I've also added back number 6, that surplus personnel appropriation shall be de-appropriated from full-time salaries on a quarterly basis. April, July, October, these surplus shall be restored to unappropriated reserves. We used to do this in the past. It gives us a better control of where the money is. Basically, when people don't fill their positions, that money sits in their budget, and it could be in unappropriated reserves, so if we need it, we could use it. So, those are my recommendations. All right, JP, Eva Madison.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the restrictions on line item transfers were something that I think the court worked on with a lot of thought over the past few years. I remember it was J.P. Maxwell who initially added about the fuel, oil, and lubricants line item. And then we've always had a restriction on capital outlay not exceeding $5,000. And I don't know why we put all the departments and elected officials through the sort of harassing process of line item budgeting and being quizzed over line items if all of that goes out the window, all of it out the window, effective upon passage of the budget. I don't think that's fulfilling my duty as being the fiscal entity in charge of the county's budget. If we're just going to cede our legislative authority to all the elected officials, then we should just give them a big pile of money and walk away, and we shouldn't put anybody through this process of line item budgeting. I'll also say that the quarterly sweep that we did away with was simply to save money on the cost of an ordinance. It makes no difference. And then I've said this before, and I'll say this again, but you can't pay someone the maximum of a range. You have to pay them a maximum of a number. So it doesn't work. 80% of them, I think there's a problem with how we've been paying our elected officials based on the wording. So I would move to put back in the restrictions on line item transfers that were in paragraph 2.
That's a motion. Just a minute. What?
Because there's no, so are you making a motion to
Yes.
adopt budget controls with that, with the continued?
Yes, I'm sorry, there wasn't
restriction?
a motion on the floor. Yes, I'll make a motion to adopt the budget controls with the additions back to, with paragraph 2, removing the deletions, but grant funds that change would stay in effect. So the fuel, oil, and lubricants line item transfers would be required to have approval, and then the percentage or $15,000. Anyway, other than the grant fund sentence and the change and the $20,000 being removed and the $5,000 being put back in. I don't know if that makes sense. So it would go back to the way it was, except for that addition of the grant funds.
All right, I have a motion and I have a second on that. So, any further discussion? All right, J.P. Ecke?
Thank you, Madam Chair. As the fiduciary body and legislative body of the county, we are to keep an eye on revenue and how much our elected officials and the departments need in order to run the county efficiently and effectively. However, part of our restrictions, as stated by the Constitution, if you go back and look at what are our duties and areas of responsibility, it specifically says not to micromanage the budget and elected officials' requests. If this is their request, it is our responsibility to balance the request with the appropriated revenues that we have and to release the funds so that way they can operate their positions or elected departments, and they were elected by the people. We should not be the ones to tell them, no, you need to come beg us for the money. I believe that we as a court should start building trust with our other elected officials. And this is one way to do it. Having these restrictions so tight costs the county money. And if you don't think it does, let's go talk to the comptroller and ask him how much time and effort and money and labor it costs in doing all of these restrictions. I believe that this court should start building trust.
Thank you, J.P. Ecke.
Well, okay, that's the third time, but
Okay, any other discussion? All right. We have a motion on the floor to keep the line item restrictions. All right, okay. J.P. Johnson.
Are we voting on the entire budget?
No, we're just voting on this one section.
No, that wasn't my motion.
Oh, that what? Okay, that's all, okay.
There wasn't another motion on the floor, and so the county attorney corrected me that I needed to have it be a motion to pass these with that amendment.
Entire budget, okay. All right.
There's a motion on the floor to approve budget controls with all of the changes with the exception of paragraph 2. In paragraph 2, the grant funds are not subject to the restrictions in this paragraph would remain. All the other additions and deletions would be, the deletions would be added back in, the additions would be taken away. So we would still have 5,000 per capital outlay, and then the other ones would be in.
Okay.
Would you like for me to read the paragraph, how it was?
Okay, I think everybody, well, some of the newer, okay. Ms. Patty, would you do this by roll call, please?
And I just want to, on item 7, will that need to have the raise?
That's
mean-
already been passed.
I know, but will that be not even in there? Okay.
That will be, that's, no, that,
That's totally separate?
yes.
Okay, just making sure. Lance Johnson. No. Susan Cunningham. No. Harvey Bowman. No. Judith Yanez. No. Patrick Deacons.
No.
Lisa Ecke. No. Sam Duncan. No. Chandra Washington. No. Eva Madison.
Yes.
Andrea Jenkins.
Yes.
Suki Hires.
Yes.
Sue Madison.
Yes.
Willie Lemming. And Butch Pond.
All right, the motion failed. We're back to the suggested,
Move we pass 17.1 as written.
okay, further discussion. All right, all those in favor of the budget controls that have been presented, Ms. Patty, will you call the roll, please?
Lance Johnson.
Yes.
Susan Cunningham.
Yes.
Harvey Bowman. Yes. Judith Yanez. Patrick Deacons.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke. Sam Duncan. Shonda Washington? Yes. Eva Madison? No. Andrea Jenkins? No. Suki Hires? No. Sue Madison? No. Willie Lemming? Butch Pond? Pass.
All right. Now, I believe that includes the budget. Now, I need a motion to send this on to the quorum court. Do I have it? Okay, JP, Eva Madison.
There's one issue, I think, with the motion we made with respect to the raises. The sheriff's step raises are based on anniversary date. So that meant that if somebody waited until their anniversary date in 2019 to get their step increase, they would be ineligible for another raise. And I think that is not at all what we intended.
I don't.
Wait, Kelly, can Kelly Cantrell come up and explain it? Because
Well, the step system's completely different from the other systems, so I
Okay.
don't see a conflict. But yeah, she's welcome to come explain it.
I just want to make sure that we didn't unintentionally leave some people out, because we've kind of done that before. We've intentionally snuck in
The step raises are at the beginning of each year. My
Oh.
concern is our flex slots. When someone gets through certain trainings, our employees move positions, and my concern in your proposal was, does that include those individuals? Because if that's the case, they will not get a raise. Does that mean people who promoted won't get a raise for the next year, or people whose jobs are reevaluated, they won't get a raise, they won't get that 2% raise that you've, and the flex slots, so they are promotions, they are technically considered promotions, but it's after they've completed their specific training. That wasn't very clear, and so if that is the case, we have most of our jail employees will not get a raise next year, and that will definitely save the county a lot of money, but it's not fair to our employees, I don't believe. So,
I just think we need to make sure it's clear what is affected by this.
Okay.
So,
that's my concern,
'Cause I don't know
because
if-
that will affect many of our sheriff's office employees, and I'm guessing other county employees as well.
Well, I'm not sure.
So I don't know what your
I'm gonna
intention was.
Defer to our attorney.
That's what I was going to say.
So based on the motion that was made, the motion that was passed was to approve the requested budgets as they'd been requested, with the exception, with all the personnel positions that had originally been requested, with the exception of the sheriff's office only receiving 8 instead of 16 new personnel positions. In addition, every employee would receive a 2% raise unless that employee received 2% or more of a raise during the year 2019.
And that does affect the people that I just.
Yeah, that would be, that was for all employees.
Yes. So anyway, most of our sheriff's office detention employees and other people who receive promotions, and anyone who had their job reevaluated to receive a raise, all of those people would be affected. So, thank you.
J.P. Johnson?
My intent was the people that the elected officials brought before the Personnel Committee and then brought before this court to get a raise were the ones that I intended, if those folks got more than a 2% raise, they not get another raise. I was not considering all the nuances in the sheriff department.
Okay, J.P. Ecke. Oh, Eva Madison?
I would just like to make an amendment to what we passed to clarify that if you received a promotional or a grade increase, that is not included in the definition of raise.
All right. We have a motion. Further,
Hold on, hold on,
okay,
hold on, hold
wait a
on,
minute. Public,
Hold on. So this is not, we're not,
we've already passed.
we've passed this, so I think what you would need to do is make a motion that states that those people are specifically are excluded, promotions and the flex slots, however you want to state it. Make a motion to
include those in the 2% raise.
I was just attempting to define raise in the motion that we passed, to define that to be exclude people who received promotional or grade-based, or grade increase. So if you moved from a grade, 16 to 17 as a result of a promotion or an ungraded promotion, that those would not be considered raises that made you ineligible for the 2%. And if Kelly is not jumping up, so I think I must have said that right.
Okay,
Okay.
J.P. Pond?
Oh.
Yes, ma'am, and I would assume that this would include employees countywide, not specifically the sheriff's department.
Okay.
All right.
Because if their grade increases, that means their responsibility also increases. J.P. Bowman?
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's so many nuances to this whole deal with the salary, the raises, and so forth. I'd like to ask that we go ahead and push it on back to the discussion, to the full quorum court, and get us a better definition of exactly what's happening here. We've talked about all these different issues, and, I don't think we're going to get a clear understanding of exactly what's going on. So I'd like to have some people do some study of this thing and come back and tell us precisely what we're deciding to do. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Well, I think, okay, we've got a motion on the floor. We have a second? Okay.
So he-
Willie Lemming.
So right now, there's a motion to amend to define a raise to exclude a grade or promotional increase in salary. Is that,
Okay.
is that right, salary slash pay?
Okay,
Is that, I'm gonna make sure I'm getting that yours right.
okay. J.P.
Yes.
Jenkins?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Would it be appropriate to ask any of the county heads in the audience if they would like to add any of their thoughts onto this
Well-
discussion at this point?
No, I don't think so. We
Okay.
need, we can. All right.
Well,
All right,
like-
we have a motion on the floor to clarify the raises. What was meant by the people that could not receive a raise if they got a raise during the year. All right. You want to read that again, please?
We're gonna amend the budget to define raise to exclude grade or promotional increases in salary slash pay.
All right, we have a motion and a second on that. Any further discussion? All those in favor of this amendment, is it amendment or a motion?
It's
In
amendment,
favor in this amendment to the budget, Patty, would you call the roll, please?
Lance Johnson? Yes. Susan Cunningham? Yes. Harvey Bowman? Judith Yanez? Yes. Patrick Deakins?
Yes.
Lisa Ecke? Sam Duncan? Yes. Chandra Washington? Yes. Eva Madison? Yes. Andrea Jenkins? Yes. Suki Hires? Yes. Sue Madison? Yes. Willie Lemming? Yes. Butch Pond?
Yes.
All right, the motion has passed. All right, now, we need to discuss an ordinance levying the county municipal and school district taxes for the year 2019, 18.1. All right. We need to vote on these
Just have to pass for the school.
taxes. What page is that on?
Madam Chair, I'd like a motion.
Just a minute. I need,
39.
oh, there it is. All right. Yes, J.P. Ecke.
I move that we pass 18.1 to the full quorum court for approval.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I would like to make a point. We're having the census in 2020. which means we're going to lose revenue. Now, we don't know how much it's going to be. We hope it's not as much as it was the last time. But I would wish you would consider increasing the millage 2/10 of a mil. That would be about $600,000. That would close the gap in the senses of the money that we would lose. We already have a motion on the floor, so it would have to be an amendment if you're interested in that. If not, okay. Public comment. All right. We have a motion on the floor to pass all the millages as presented. The school millage, city, and et cetera. Everything that's listed in this ordinance. Ms. Patty, would you call the roll, please?
Lance Johnson. Susan Cunningham. Harvey Bowman. Judith Yanez. Patrick Deacons. Lisa Ecke. Sam Duncan. Shonda Washington. Eva Madison. Andrea Jenkins. Suki Hires. Sue Madison. Willie Lemming. Butch Pond.
Okay, motion has passed. Now I need a motion to go, to send this to the quorum court. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All right. Now, we've done the final budget, we've done the budget controls, we've done the raises. Is there anything else that's, what? Public comment.
Tim Helder, live in West Fork, Arkansas. Been your sheriff since '05. Tough job you guys have. It's this way every year. There's a lot of gnashing of teeth and numbers grinding and all that. I don't necessarily feel like our employees have been overly represented tonight. I think that without our comments or people being able to voice their opinion, I think when you look just to the north of us, Benton County just passed a 3 or 3.5% raise for their employees. It sends a clear signal that, as far as I can tell with our employees, that it's just a different set of standards, that they're worth more than the employees here. And I know that's not the case, but I don't necessarily think you thought about that. I think we're thinking about numbers instead of people. I understand with our 16 positions, everything's on the table for compromise. I knew that coming in, but I also thought with the compromise that it might be a good enough compromise to get these folks a raise that was, if not what they deserved, at least comparable to the county to the north of us. That is who we compete against. That is who people look to when they start comparing. Fayetteville PD just advertised today that they're going to start a program by which they will just laterally transfer people into their organization from others. If we let ourselves fall behind too much, guys, we're going to be right back in the same boat that we've been in for years. The court last year worked hard and tirelessly to get us to where we were. The millage increase came in to make sure that the employees were taken care of. I would just encourage you when it comes time, 2%, not going to thumb my nose at it, it's an increase for our employees. But is it enough? I would argue that it's not. Thank you.
Carl Gales, Chief of Staff. I had a crew started all night last night. Those guys make $13.17 an hour. They quit this morning. No, they didn't quit this morning. They were back working. You said you came and you offered them 26 cents more this next year. 3% is 39 cents more. So I'm asking you to reconsider from 2% they're 3%. I don't know if any of you've looked at, your taxes went up. I don't know if you looked at your insurance bill. Mine increased 25% on my personal health plan, $200 a month. So look at what you're asking our people and saying that you're only worth 2% increase. Please reconsider us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Russell Hill, Washington County Assessor. I live in Winslow. Benton County, our starting pay for an assessor's office is $12.21 an hour. These are not high school students. These are not high school students who are living with their families. These are people who are paying rent or trying to make a mortgage. Most of them can't afford that, so they do pay rent. Benton County, they start their assessors out at $13.50 an hour. When we did our last reappraisal in 2015, we're coming up on our new appraisal in 2020, property values have gone up 28% in that amount of time. And that means the rents have risen. Mr. Gales mentioned about, everything's going up. I don't even know if 2% is even a cost of living increase for the increase that these folks are doing. So I just ask you, pray fervently about it and try to put yourself in those people's positions who are coming up, showing up every day, and doing what we ask them to do to the best of their ability, and just help them to help provide for their families too. Thank you.
Kyle Sylvester. I live in Johnson, Arkansas, and I'm your circuit clerk. I know that all the elected officials have done their best to cut their budgets. I myself have reduced positions and have gained efficiency in my departments. And my people work hard every day, every single day, to make sure that the records are intact and that our judicial system and our real estate system are correct. And I have to echo everything that the past speakers have said. 2%, I'm not going to thumb my nose in it. I think thank you for that, but it's not going to be enough. And I understand the need for rainy day funds. I understand the need for having money in the bank. But if you got employees leaving for 15, 25, 30 cents an hour, you've just lost valuable people that make this county run. We're trying to save money. And if it means I have to go back into my budget and take out money for a remodel project for the office for efficiency, I'll do it if people get a raise. I don't know what it would cost between that 1%, but I'll do it. It doesn't matter to me. My employees are more important to me and this county than that. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Matt Durrett. I live in Fayetteville and I work in the prosecutor's office, and I'm not going to, I don't want to get up here and just regurgitate everything that everybody else says, but I do want to say that I'm very grateful for what you all have passed on to the full quorum court, the additional positions. I am extremely grateful, and I don't want to sound like I'm not grateful. And I understand, just like Kyle said, that a 2% raise, it's more money, and everyone should be happy about more money, and I thank you for that too. But I want to echo what everyone else says. I know I look at my employees every day, and I see how hard they work. I know how hard they work. And I want them to get as much money as they possibly can. As I said, 2% is not nothing, and I don't think anyone's going to turn that down and say that's only 2%. But hopefully we as a county can find a little bit extra money for them, because I want to see them get as much money as they possibly can, because I know what they make possible for me and my deputies in our office. Without them, our system would grind to a halt. I know that we couldn't do a fraction of the things that we do without them. So I just hope that somehow we can find a little bit extra money for them. And I thank you for all your hard work.
Nothing like peer pressure to get you up here, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, I appreciate the 2% raise. If possible, 3% would be a little bit better. I come from a little different perspective. I started in 1997 as a deputy treasurer, making $9 an hour. And I remember when Joanne Perry first and then Mr. Haney would come in and tell us about the raise we were going to get. And and then in January, you open up your check, and even if it's just $20 or $30, that's something special. So, especially for the employees that don't make a lot, this would really help. I appreciate it.
Good evening. I'm Sergeant Pineda, Washington County. I've been there 12 years. I got about 30 officers who come to work every day, get into fights, getting to deal with mental detainees, and they're trying to go home every day safely. Appreciate the 2% that you're offering to us. I thank you a lot, because last year our detention site did not get a raise. I love my job. I love what I do. If is there any possibility that you can take care of my deputies, that'd be awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for all of your comments. I'm sure everybody will take those things into consideration. So we will vote on the final budget a week from this Thursday. So, are there any other comments? If not, do I hear a motion to adjourn? All right, we are adjourned.